everyone. Welcome back to the huddle. Sean and Dan, I have one question for you this morning that I hope you appreciate. Who's your daddy?
Oh, the Indiana football team. Look at you.
Look at that.
You making a sports reference.
Yeah.
Was that really lame? I don't know.
What a game. I stayed up to watch that whole thing. I couldn't turn it off.
I didn't turn it off, but I did fall asleep. Fourth quarter, Indiana up. I was like, okay.
So I saw a headline that said something about a Cinderella story, and I was like, oh, I can get on board with this. I'm all about the underdog story. So I read a couple graphs, but
I thought you liked the princess part of it.
Yes, of course. Gotta love that. Anyway, so fun times for you guys last night. So before we start and jump in,
just America. Come on.
Say that again.
It's fun time for America. Not just for us.
I will say this before we leave. It's the first time I've ever seen a game where the team, one of the teams, had such a massive theoretical home field advantage that wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami's literally in its stadium, and the crowd's with Indiana.
Yeah. Wow.
That's amazing.
The Big Ten teams tend to travel pretty well. It's a big deal.
It's the underdogs. They always pull at the heartstrings, even for the former ballerina who doesn't really follow sports much. So, okay, one housekeeping note before we start, guys. Again, we're trying to build up our YouTube page that we launched in late December. Right now, if you're watching, please go to YouTube, go to our page at the DC Huddle, subscribe. We're slowly building our numbers. We really want to do some this week. So if you can do that right now, that would really, really help us. Okay, today's 5. We're going to talk about the president being on a roll throughout the night last night. He returned late at 2 a.m. And while he was on the plane, he made a little bit of news. So we're going to be talking about the president.
Before he got on the plane, when he was on the plane, and after he was on the plane.
Yeah, it was a late night for him. So we'll talk about his tweet storm. We'll talk about Minnesota, the land of 10,000 cell phone videos, with all these videos going viral. We'll talk about Karl Rove's warning to the administration and to Republicans right now when it comes to minority voters, specifically Hispanic voters. We'll talk about Shapiro's book and what he's trying to do here in terms of 2028. And then we'll hit on the 1-year anniversary of President Trump becoming president again, and all he sort of has accomplished and what next year could look like.
Can you guys believe 1 year ago at this hour, Joe Biden was still president? I mean, it feels like 100 years ago. But it's amazing.
It really does. And by the way, it still feels like we're drinking from the fire hose here. I mean, like, I remember, like,
we are.
It's like, which story do you want to cover? That, like, he's breaking so much news. It's like, you have to like duplicate yourself 5 times over to keep up. All right, let's look at the day book real quick. The House is back. They've got this legislative business at 2 o'clock. Returning back for the week. Senate is out. At 1 p.m., Caroline Leavitt's going to be holding a press briefing. So that's going to be interesting for her after a lot of news the president broke last night. At 3 o'clock, the president's going to be participating in a signing time in the Oval Office.
Which means another press conference at 3 o'clock.
Probably. Yes, most likely. And then he's off to Davos for the World Economic Forum, where we're going to hear him talk about Greenland. He's obviously got Greenland on his mind, and I'm sure European leaders are. I don't know if are they dreading his arrival, or they really need to iron some things out with him. So maybe it's like more anticipation.
Well, I don't think you like, if you're Mark Rutte, well, maybe not Mark Rutte, but Starmer or Macron. Like, I don't think you're looking forward to this encounter.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
Talk about it here. I'll wait till we get to the topic here.
Before we jump in, let's do a word from both of our sponsors here. Do you guys ever wake up randomly in the middle of the night and not be able to go back to sleep for the life of you? That was actually me last night, up at 3, thinking about my to-do list, and not able to go back to bed until I think maybe like 4:15 for a little bit. Well, if you're having this issue, there is obviously an easy solution, and that is CBD from CB Distillery. Get this, guys. Over 90% of CBD customers say they sleep better with CBD. People are raving about it, and I clearly need to try this. And by the way, maybe the president too. Although, given that he was up last night tweeting so late. And CB Distillery, they have more options than just focusing on sleep. You can get things for stress relief. You can get things for mood. You can get things for pain workouts. And you can shop by benefit, so it's easy to find what you're looking for, though we should note that specific product availability depends on your individual state regulations. And I should note here that everything from CB Distillery is premium quality, third-party tested, and free of artificial dyes and fillers. They've got 2 million happy customers and a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're ready to sleep through the night, you can go right now to cbdistillery.com and use our code HUDDLE for 25% off. That's cbdistillery.com, code HUDDLE, cbdistillery.com.
Yeah, lots of people who have soreness and wake up because of that find it totally helpful. So if you're sore, to your point about workouts or whatever, but a lot of relief from the bombs and the gels and all that kind of stuff too.
Great.
Well, we're gonna change it up today. I am taking Cozy Earth. Why, you may ask, as I sit here in a turtleneck, like still pretty cold. I woke up freezing. I did not sleep well, Rachel, you and I both last night. And my wife came out this morning and asked how I was doing, told her I was freezing. And she said, honey, you need warmer pajamas. I have like lightweight summer ones from Cozy Earth. And she said, I am going to Cozy Earth. I am ordering you the flannel that are heavier. So I look forward to those. Yes, arriving soon. So if you are looking to upgrade or expand your pajama wardrobe, I think go to cozyearth.com. Also, I always talk about the bubble blankets. It was in good use watching the football game last night, but they have a ton of great products. All of us, Rachel, you're getting yours soon, but all of us use them, love it. So go to cozyearth.com and use the code HUDDLE for up to 20% off.
Dan, I'll tell you this. I get, with that little TMI here, I get a little hot at night, but those flannel pajamas from Cozy Earth, they breathe. And I literally wear them every night, and I'll wash them because in between, because I'm so excited. Yeah, thank you. But I'm telling you, if you or someone gets hot, trust me, you will still love the Cozy Earth. The flannel breathes like nothing I've tried before. I have a beautiful night's sleep every night. So,
wow.
The question is, can we get them to our house before the coming snowstorm?
Oh, listen. And by the way, this is going to be interesting. You've got dueling forecasts. This is like what's going on with Trump. You've got the American model and the European model. American model, 3 to 4 inches. European model, I think it is, we're looking 18 to 22.
Yeah, DC is going to get walloped. We got to make sure the sleds, the snow pants, everything's ready to go. I have a feeling Sunday is going to be. Yep.
I'm so here.
We are. This household could withstand like a 3-month snowstorm right now. We are fully stocked.
Nice. In
a way that I can't complain, but I'm just saying.
Well, I know whose house I'm going to.
Yeah.
If the grocery store sell out.
We're full prepped up too, by the way. So no matter your natural disaster, we are fully prepared to defend ourselves in a lot of ways.
Nice.
All right, guys, let's jump in. So President Trump spent last night, as we said at the top of the show, trolling European allies ahead of the World Economic Forum. I'm just going to go through this list. It's a long list, so hang with me here. He threatened to slap France with a 200% tariff on wine and champagne. This after he was told by reporters that Emmanuel Macron of France had rejected his offer to be on the board of peace for Gaza, which he wants to talk about at this meeting this week. Then on Air Force One, he released the first of a number of private text messages he has had with world leaders, literally screenshotted them, released them on Truth Social. On one of them, the one he released on the plane, Macron was reaching out, asking him to do dinner, asking to have an emergency G7 meeting in Paris later this week after the World Economic Forum. He says, I don't know what you're under. I don't understand what you're doing in Greenland. And then after midnight, the president started posting some AI-generated memes depicting the U.S. taking over not just Greenland, but Canada. Let's put some of these up just so people get a sense of what. Okay, so here he is in the Oval Office in this pretend picture. And there's a big map, a picture, of an American flag over the map of the United States and of Canada. Let's do the other one here. It's the president staking an American flag in a sort of Arctic looking place that has a sign that says Greenland next to Marco Rubio and JD Vance. Looks like they need some cozy earth pajamas there because it looks very cold. So yes, very much trolling Europeans on Greenland there. And this obviously comes, guys, after he has already threatened European allies with a 10% tariff starting February 1st if he can't take over Greenland. And after he texted the Norwegian prime minister earlier this week saying because he didn't get the peace prize, he no longer needs to be focused on world peace, but on what is best for the United States. I am exhausted reading all of this stuff. Let's start just with Dan here. What is your immediate reaction to this frenzy last night? Like, just
I
what's your
think
take?
this is, yeah, I mean, I think what's fascinating about this is Trump is in political trouble right now. Republicans are in political trouble. No one, we're going to get to Karl Rove's warning, but nobody would deny their own polls, public polls, Democrats polls show the same thing. He is hyper focused another week or start to another week on everything overseas. Okay. 2, he's focused on an issue that polls show overwhelmingly Americans are not interested in. I mean, I think they're indifferent or not indifferent. They some really don't like this idea of trying to take Greenland. Others are like, what are you doing? And so he continues to focus on it. And the tactics he's taking are what swing voters hate about him. Right. I mean, this is the stuff that MAGA loves it. Democrats, despise it. But swing voters just say it's childish, it's juvenile. They wish he would not do this stuff. So look, the election's still a long way away, but I don't get this. And they keep trying to then talk about Russia, but he turns around and is basically like, I'll give you Ukraine essentially, and I'm going to bring you into the Middle East. Take some oil. Like, I don't get what he's doing.
Sean, a lot of Democrats saying this is not how you treat allies. We've heard this for a long time now. What's the play here for the president?
It's funny. This is the front page. I literally just, as Dan was talking, this is sitting next to me. This is the weekend Wall Street Journal. That's Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney and Xi Jinping. And it says, Canada warms to China. That's not how you treat allies either.
Oh my God, but Sean, come on. That is
cause and effect
right there.
Look, I guess what I'm getting at is, I'm so tired of being lectured about how you treat an ally by all these foreign policy folks who sat by and watched Europe treat us like their little, have not treated us the way that a partner should be treated. We've been taking advantage of NATO. We've been taking advantage of our trade agreements. And so I just, this idea that everybody's so up in arms, where were you for the last 4 or 5 decades?
Sean, let me ask you this. Do you know which country had the most number per capita of people who died helping us in Afghanistan?
Yes.
Denmark. And it is?
Denmark.
Okay.
Per capita.
Sean, they sent soldiers. Hold on a second. Hold on. Stop. Denmark, Copenhagen wasn't attacked by Osama bin Laden. The United States was. Half these countries sent troops who died on our behalf in the mountains of Afghanistan.
I'm well aware of what they did during the global war.
Okay.
Okay. That being said, and I could go down a million rabbit holes here, right? Did they uphold their Article 5 obligations? Sure. Did they kick and scream a lot of the time? Yes. Did they take some of the, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. The bottom line is we've carried the burden for NATO for decades. They haven't lived up to their obligations. That's a fact. Okay. Even the Secretary General of NATO has been very vocal about this. The bottom line, though, is we have a right to look out for our own self-interest. You may not like Trump's tactics, but at the end of the day, the question is his job, and any leader's job, is to take care and protect the country. He has closed the borders. No one seemed to care for 4 years when our border was wide open and people fled into this country.
Well, hold on. Now you're totally going off.
No. But I'm just talking about overall, the president's been focused on looking out for our interests. And no one really cared for 4 years what we were doing with the withdrawal from Afghanistan, all this stuff. And suddenly now it's, oh my God, look at what he posted on Truth Social.
Well, I think here's the challenge that is the question now in the immediate near future, which is Europe has tried flattery, right? They have tried the come and kiss his ring in England with their state dinner and tell him how great he is and everything. And of course, nobody believes it. right? Everyone's in on the joke that Trump loves flattery, right? Here's your Nobel Peace Prize. The question is, at what point do they turn to, it's like Neville Chamberlain, right? You keep saying, oh, here, thank you, sir. Oh, you're the greatest, sir. It's only because of, and he just says, you're weak. I want more. I want more. I want more. And at what point does Europe say, that's it? Like, this break is happened. It's like a divorce.
But they need the U.S. on so many things. It just seems difficult.
Well, look, here's what.
Yeah, but Rachel, at some point, you're getting, at some point, you are no longer, like, it's not an equal part. It's not even a relationship, right? You are the subservient, like, slave that you're right. And so at some point you just say, okay, we're either going to just admit it, or you have to draw a line, and it is what it is.
So Dan, can I just, there's an aspect of common ground that I'll give you here, which is, I've said this before, so I just want to say it at the forefront. Politically, I learned my lesson with President Trump back in 2016 when we were trying to go through a bunch of different media things, and he just showed me that he knew, like, he was like, I'm going to do it my way. And he was right.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, when it comes to business, again, I'm like, I'm really not in a position, but just as a simpleton, to look at this and say, okay, Mr. President, you want Greenland. What's the best way to go at this? Right. And this is where I would say, tactically, upsetting the Greenland people. And I'm not really that concerned about Denmark in particular, but ultimately, if you want to control Greenland, you need to get the buy-in of people from Greenland ostensibly. And I would argue that, like I proposed yesterday, somebody had suggested, maybe a sovereign wealth fund or something akin to what we do with Alaska, where we make it worth their while and we make some kind of deal where the people of Greenland said, hey, this is actually a pretty good deal. We already have basically full access militarily to the landmass. So I would suggest that if this, which I agree that Greenland's in our strategic national interest, then the question becomes, tactically, what's the best way to achieve that goal? And I'm not sure going at them and going at Europe is ever going to be the best way. And so what I would argue is, hey, it's not a question of the goal, but maybe the tactic needs to be refined.
Didn't he use these sort of tactics though, to get them to up their NATO dues? Maybe not this far,
right?
But like,
no. But my point is that ultimately, it's not just yeah, you're right. No, so he got NATO to buy in, not only on their initial obligation of 2%, but then upping it to 5%. And to be blunt, I mean, again, not to go down this rabbit hole, but the 5 is kind of a wussy 5 because it's 3 with an obligation to do 2 and whatever. But here's my point: when you ultimately look at Greenland. That's why I wasn't, when I say I'm dismissive of Denmark, if the people of Greenland say we want to be affiliated with the United States in a greater way, that's who the real audience is. And so I would argue that it's not so much Europe. Europe, I mean, can't just give away Greenland either. It's Greenland that has to make that decision.
So the president's sort of bullish tactics toward Europe have created this awkward situation. Maybe not awkward. It's not quite unprecedented, but once upon a time, it was rare to see other U.S. leaders criticize the president or try to undercut them, especially when they were traveling abroad. Let's take a listen to Gavin Newsom, it appears in Davos right now. Can we bring up that clip?
Message for Europeans who are concerned about the messages from the White House around Greenland this week?
Yeah, it's time to buck up. It's time to get serious and stop being complicit. It's time to stand tall and firm, have a backbone. I've seen this in the United States, the supine Congress playing both sides, say one thing on a text or a tweet and another publicly.
Let's jump out of that. I covered Pelosi for a long time, and I remember she would always say, like, I don't ever criticize even President Trump, while I'm traveling abroad. Not the case here, Dan, anymore. Yep. Is that just sort of a bygone era? Or the president's going there to try to, land a deal or a couple deals, Greenland, and then this whole board of peace as well, right? And maybe his tactics, Democrats don't like them. But here you have the governor of California coming out and telling Europeans to stick it to the president.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is where you have to I say this all the time. Trump has obliterated this. I mean, every time Biden went anywhere, he called him a fool, an idiot, like in public while he was abroad. So 1, nobody cares anymore. That's gone. 2, this is why this is interesting. When you think of the Democratic field, it's all domestic focus. Shapiro, Bashir, AOC, even Harris to some extent, Newsom. He has been the first on a lot of things, the first to kind of get nimble on social media, the first to really try to confront Trump and troll him. He is now the first to start going at him on foreign policy. And this is an interesting thing because we've talked about J.D. Vance and kind of the potential, rupture between Rubio and Vance and Cruz. I think it's really fascinating. And I'm going to see, I bet other Democrats are going to second him. So once again, he's the leader.
Just a couple of things to note before we move to our next topic. Again, it sounds like Macron is pushing for this G7 meeting on Thursday in Paris. Sean, chances do you think that happens? They want to talk about Greenland very quickly right now. Emergency meeting.
I don't know that the full G7. I mean, they call it in these meetings like meeting on the sidelines. It's like one of those. I think that there'll be some kind of, whether it's 5 of them or whatever, there'll be something.
Okay.
I don't know that if it's going to be.
He's not going to Paris on
I
someone.
was going to say it sounds like. He's
no.
I
thought it was going to be a poll site at Davos. My bad.
It sounds like
he's
Macron was trying to get him to come to Paris, but
yeah, that's not.
I agree,
For a million reasons, that's not happening.
And then also the president, he wants to make a big splash on this board of peace regarding Gaza. Obviously, got that bad news yesterday that Macron is out on that, and that other European leaders are concerned this is going to look too much like a UN 2.0 Trump version. He also announced last night that he's invited Putin to be on this board, but we'll talk about more of this later in the week because there's a lot to unpack here. Let's go to Minnesota, land of the 10,000 cell phone videos. We've talked a lot on the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I love writing headlines.
Yeah, Dan was a headline writer.
I know, but saying it out loud makes it funnier.
So yeah, guys, we've talked a lot about these ugly anti-ICE protests. Not that they're all, turning into, vandalism or whatever. There are obviously some people who are peacefully protesting, but we've given a lot of focus to the anti-ICE protests. This morning, we're going to look at a video real quick of something going viral with the left right now. NBC News did an interview with this guy, a Minnesota man, a naturalized citizen from Laos who goes by the name of Scott, saying he was afraid when ICE broke down his door the other day. They handcuffed him, dragged him out with barely any clothes on. And we should say at the top that they said they were looking for alleged child sex offenders, but it turned out they got the wrong guy. Let's take a quick look at this.
About 1:30, daughter-in-law came to the room and said, "Dad, there's an ice out there." I said, "What?" "Yeah, there's ice out there." So I said, "Okay, just don't open the door." And then suddenly they just banged that door. And then my grandson was asleep out there on the couch, and then he heard the banging, and then he woke up, he started crying, and then he went to the room with me and my daughter-in-law.
Okay, let's jump out of this here quick. So we see the polling, right? A lot of the viewers watching the show, they're going to have potentially a different view of this and say, ICE might have been justified in this. But the reality is, you look at the polling, the American people do not agree with that. Dan, you sent this around this morning. Just jump right in there. Like these videos, all these videos are going viral, and they're clearly impacting public sentiment.
Look, the world is changing, and we've talked about kind of the strategies and tactics on campaigns. Well, now when you have events, you have the fact that people can pull their cell phones out and capture stuff and put it on the internet in real time. So in this instance, the Department of Homeland Security, after these videos started going viral, came out and said that they were investigating 2 convicted sex offenders at the address, and that a U.S. citizen living there refused to be fingerprinted or facially identified. The family says that the only people living there, registered there, period, are the guy you just saw, his daughter-in-law and son and grandson. They dragged him out, as you see. They then released him with no answers. They had no warrant. They had no nothing, right? Smash the door down. You see that overwhelming force. And it's kind of like, oops. So on the left, people have been alleging and putting out videos of stuff like this all year. And this is what spins up the left, right? Which is basically, you can't do this in America. You have to have a warrant. You have to have real cause. Now, DHS says what they said, but there have been several instances where in court, judges have said, this is ridiculous what DHS has said. They basically, in some instances, outright said they've lied. So the trust factor on the left becomes almost zero. So when people ask, how can people on the left say and do what they're doing? This is what circulates on the left all day, right? And on the right, it's like, hey, you guys are interfering with ICE agents. This is why it's so toxic.
And it's clearly not just the left, Dan. I mean, like, you look at the polls and, independent voters overwhelmingly, their perceptions of ICE just totally plummeting right now. Sean, I'm hearing from some Trump allies who are complaining about Kristi Noem right now. They're complaining that DHS isn't doing enough to sort of, again, we used the word earlier this week, recalibrate the strategy to try to keep videos like this from going viral. Are you hearing this? And do you personally have concerns that, the head of DHS is not doing enough to sort of get a hold on this?
Yeah. So as you guys know, I often say there's two things. There's the policy and the politics. And on this one, they have a problem on both. On the politics, whether you're a diehard MAGA supporter or not, there's no question. If I today on my show, I've got Richard Hudson, the chair of the National Republican Congressional Committee. I would be concerned about having to answer for a video like that. And again, we talked about this. Facts aside, you wake up and you turn on your TV in the morning and that's what you're watching. If you're anything but a hardcore MAGA supporter, you're going, what the hell's going on over there? Right? Mm-hmm. That's the politics. On the policy, I do worry. This guy's a U.S. citizen. Like, we have rights, and you have rights to, you have a right to remain silent. You have all these things. And the idea that they're coming up to a door like that and just breaking through makes me wonder again, if they were wrong, right, then I think that calls into question a lot more, not just the tactics, but what the hell are you doing? If you were that off on that guy, who else are you off on? And I think that they need to, as I said before, dial back, be more strategic, more surgical about what they're doing and how they're doing it. That video, to Dan's point, fuels the left, it fuels the middle. And it probably, if you think of the spectrum politically and this being the MAGA, whatever, everything probably to the left of the hardcore third is probably going to get a little cringy when you see that video.
So who has go ahead, Dan.
The one thing too, and this is where you talk about Hudson, that's going to be a problem for Republicans. Noem hasn't testified before Congress. I think it's in 4 months. I think that's what it is. They don't want to bring her in for questions.
I mean, appropriation season's coming up, so she'll have to go to the Hill.
But here's the challenge. If you're running against somebody on committee, it's like you won't do your job, right? You guys are so afraid to have them testify, right? I mean, this goes to Sean's point. This is a political show. This is where, for members of Congress, I'd start saying to leadership, guys, we got to do something. Someone's got to testify. I need my pound of flesh for my constituents to register my concern.
Or Dan, I mean, to be honest with you, you go the other way, which is we can't have her here.
Yeah, well,
I don't want to have to, because the flip side is I don't want to have to defend that.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. Dan is suggesting that's what's happening, right? But no, my last quick question on this, and then we should move on. But who has the responsibility to sort of fix this, Sean? What you're talking about? Like, is it Tom Homan? Is it Kristi Noem? Like, is it does Susie Wiles need to step in here and enforce order? Like, what? Like, who can?
Well, I think it's not a question. Like, what we've heard is that when it comes to getting the cabinet sort of straight, that has really fallen on Susie. Yeah. And she, when you hear rumors, I honestly don't know if they're true or not because I haven't asked, and it's not really. But when you hear these stories of cabinet members sort of needing a good whipping, it's fallen to Susie to be the one. And I imagine that at some point it's getting Noem in and saying, take the cowboy hat off. Stop trying to and do your job and get these guys focused.
It's so funny. One of the people I was talking to this week about this big Trump ally mentioned the cowboy hat to me as well. Just a quick note before we move to our next topic. It looks like the president overnight saw that church video we were talking about yesterday. He truthed about it, saying that those anti-ICE protesters who stormed the church were troublemakers who should be thrown in jail. Yes or no, will those protesters be investigated? Dan?
Yes.
Sean?
100%. And by the way, we played that Don Lemon video yesterday. You should see, I mean, his response is so pathetic. That guy's such a swarmy little, like, he started to talk about the fact that, like, why he's the face of it. This is ridiculous. He's just a journalist doing his job, and that what, you know, he's being attacked by being a gay black man. It's no, I mean, it's the weasel words out of his mouth were almost as pathetic as the first iteration of him going to the church. You saw Bishop Barron and a lot of Catholic leaders come out, and unfortunately, the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops has yet to issue a statement. They have plenty of time to criticize Trump everywhere else in the world, but not in their own backyard. But it is amazing, the pushback. And this is what the video that we talk about, this NBC video, right when we sort of have another issue, we do something to take it away.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Karl Rove's warning. So the legendary GOP operative is sounding the alarm over the administration's support with Hispanics catering. He was on Fox News this week singling out the immigration issue, saying that while people loved that the president closed the border universally, not universally, but well over a majority of Americans, and they love that the administration is deporting violent criminals, they are, quote, more forgiving of undocumented immigrants who, quote, keep their noses clean. No, basically this notion that the administration should not be going after the quiet construction worker or the person who, you know, is cleaning your house, or the person who is, you know, working at a healthcare facility, who is an illegal immigrant, but who is sort of not causing a problem here in this country. First of all, Sean, a question for you. I mean, Rove is obviously from a different political era, so I am curious how much, you know, the James Blairs of the world are watching him and taking what he says to heart. But secondly, like, do they need to heed his advice here? How big of a worry is it with Hispanics in particular?
The big takeaway from Carl's comments that I got was, you know, you look at Hispanics in Texas in particular, places where President Trump did very, very well. Those people are not coming over the Republican column like a lot of young men, a lot of other demographics that Trump did very well with. They came over to you. They rented you. They came over for a time being to see how you could do for them, and they need to have their vote earned again. And I think that Carl's right on this, that especially Hispanics are saying, hey, we're all for law and order, but this is a little too far. If you think about the story that we just played, there's an individual who I don't know the guy's backstory, but according to everything that was reported, he's a naturalized citizen. He's been been in the country for a while, whatever. If you're somebody who's played by the rules, gotten your citizenship through the legal process, and you go, and I can still be targeted, like, what's going on here? That's not good. That does not send a good signal to a lot of legal immigrants. And that's always been the difference, is that when you did polling, people who were here legally said, I followed the rules, I played by it, I did it right. Why is that person getting to jump the line? And that
Which is why they supported close the border 100%.
But now if you're one of those people and you go, wait a second, so I followed the rules, I did everything right, and now I'm still going to get my door knocked down, like, that's what the Democrats are going to tell me. So maybe I shouldn't be with you guys. Carl's right on that front, from the standpoint of, we need to understand that these coalitions that got us to victory in 2024 are not solid. They are malleable, and we need to continue to earn them and win their vote.
Dan, Republicans, you know, carved up the Texas map to give themselves potentially 5 more seats. I'm increasingly hearing from Democrats who are bullish that they're not going to get those 5. Okay. Even some Republicans have said to me, there's no way. What's your sort of sense of this right now? What do you hear?
Yeah, I mean, look, we haven't talked much about this, but the state with the most number of undocumented immigrants is Texas. It's estimated to be 2.2 million people. The Rio Grande Valley, along the Mexican border down there, is where Republicans thought they could run up the score, because Trump did better than any Republican has in ages down there. You look at why Florida has gone from being a 50-50 state to a pretty, solidly red state. It is the advancement of the Republican Party into Miami-Dade and Broward and Palm Beach counties, along with strengthening in the I-4 corridor, where immigrants have become pro-Republican at the state level and at the federal level. What Rove is warning is, as to Sean's point, they are not locked in necessarily right now. And what Democrats were saying earlier this year was, okay, they're not for Trump, they're not for the GOP, but they're not for us, right? They're a jump ball. Now what you're starting to see in polls is they are now starting to say, I'm going to vote Democratic. Not because they necessarily like the brand, but because they're so angry with Trump. So now for us, they're in our column right now. And so that could change a whole lot of things. And so I think Rove really focused on Texas, but I think Arizona as well, Georgia, where there's, these big Latino populations, North Carolina. I think Democrats are increasingly of the opinion, like, we have a real opportunity to bring them back, to hold them.
We've got 2 more topics before questions. So let's move to Shapiro's book. These excerpts, we talked a little bit about one of them yesterday. They're getting a bit of mixed reviews. Some people are saying he's the future. Pennsylvania governor's the future, 2028. They're holding up these sort of anecdotes from the VP vetting process in 2024 to say that Kamala was a disaster, and here's further proof. But then I've also seen some people who like him say, he sounds a little whiny in these excerpts. Just to sort of pull this back, like, what is the goal for something like this? Sean, you've done books yourself. What is he teeing up here? Why is he doing it?
Yeah. So when you're it's funny. I ask people all the time when they want to write a book, why are you doing it? Some people want a book because it's a good legacy thing. I want to, I don't care if it sells a ton. I want to write a book so that my thoughts are codified in history, that my family knows what I did, or it's a personal achievement. I wrote a book. Sometimes you want a cause. Most politicians who are sort of want to run again, write it as it's like, I almost think of it as like a freebie. Like, you get to write a book. It's an excuse for doing a bunch of tours and going to places without overtly looking like you're campaigning. You get a budget, normally it depends on the whole thing, so that it's outside the realm of campaign world. You get free interviews because it's under the guise of a book. It gives you political cover to go do a lot of things that otherwise would be blatantly running for office. And it's also, financially and a lot of other ways, very helpful politically, to give you the cover to do things that you couldn't do, and to say things that you might not otherwise say in the context, or to bring up issues, or maybe formulate a healthcare policy, or delve into your background in a way that, again, you now can get out a lot of information that you want to get out. Maybe you want to, like, let's say you had something negative. You want to maybe explain it in context, why you shot a dog, for example, if you're the governor of,
I remember that book.
But so part of it, and like, to settle some scores, to get some stuff straight. And then it kind of becomes in the rearview mirror. So you get to say asked and answered, but it gives you a lot of cover to do things.
And take shots at potential 2028 rivals. Dan, do you think he's doing this? Is he, like, the anecdotes that you've seen so far, smart play? Like, what do you think has been the smartest so far? What?
I think and I, full disclosure, I've not read the whole book because I haven't gotten it yet. I've placed my order, but to me, there's 2 interesting things, which is, I think we would all agree, in a Democratic primary, and even in the general, his biggest liability is probably that he's Jewish. So one, from a narrative standpoint, in this book, he is attempting to flip it from a weakness to a strength by talking at length about the arson attack on the mansion, the impact to his family. He is trying to basically say that, like, one, hey, just like Trump was the victim of attacks, I have been the victim of attacks. I am strong. I am resilient. I'm a person of faith. So he is trying to create a new narrative on being Jewish to make it a strength. Very interesting, smart place to do it. You control the written word. The second is, his second biggest liability is that he's nakedly ambitious, that he's inauthentic. He is trying to paint Harris And some of the allegations about during the VP vetting, he's trying to rebut it. He's saying that he was doing small talk while he was waiting in the lobby to meet with her. And that was taken, out of context, that he kind of just said, oh, how many bedrooms are in this house? Kind of trying to just, pass time. And that, she complained about being VP. She basically, he paints as insecure and isolated, not him. So I to Sean's point, it's like score settling, narrative generating, and at the same time you get to travel around. So I'll be very curious to see how the Democratic base takes this in over the next couple months, and whether we're still saying being Jewish is a huge liability.
By the way, we talked about the pros. There's also a negative. So when Kamala did her book tour, as much as I will continue to crap all over what she wrote in it, Dan brings up, Black women in particular every once in a while. The book sold a lot.
Yep.
Right.
Crowd sizes big.
What?
Crowd sizes were big too. Have been.
Yeah, but that's not only a good metric, right? But that was huge because she exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time, the book I always tell people the book's a joke, meaning it's a marketing exercise, really. Can you sell your book? Because that's political books in particular, people rarely read them. There's an old anecdote about, who was it, Michael Kinsley or something, put a $10 bill in a bunch of his books, and he would say, if you get this, call me and I'll give you another or something. I forgot but the idea was that political books are what people put right on their backdrop for their TV settings.
No names.
No names. So I say that because if Shapiro rolls this thing out and it doesn't sell well, and he does events and no one comes, that's a problem. Rahm Emanuel has been talking about going to these small cities and towns throughout the country where there's less than 200,000 people. And him and Pete Buttigieg both are getting, decent sized gatherings. That's something that people will tout. I can pull a crowd in and, BFE, wherever. If Shapiro rolls this book out and it doesn't do well, he's going to have a political problem.
Well, we'll be watching those crowd sizes. Let's move to our last segment.
I can do some analysis on that.
the Madden telestrator. Sean will be doing it.
That's good. Okay. President Trump's 1-year anniversary. It's coming back to office. He has done a ton, and there's a lot of stories out there about the first year back. But let's just very quickly go through a few things. We'll talk. Each of you can pick sort of biggest impact, biggest surprise, if there is any, personnel winner and loser from the admin, and what's coming. So we'll do a quick round here on this. Biggest impact, Dan, we'll start with you.
What he did to close the southern border without Congress is amazing, and he deserves. It is historic. What he did. Even Bernie Sanders and Hakeem Jeffries have said it.
It was mine as well. That was mine as well. I mean, he makes the point all the time that President Joe Biden, when he was president, was always like, oh, Congress needs to pass a bill. And he says, you didn't need Congress to pass a bill. You just need a new president. And
you need a will.
Like, perfect example of his greatest achievement so far, I'd say. Sean, what's yours?
Since you guys both right,
you agree.
Border, I would agree, but I want to be new. So I will say the impact that the Maha agenda has had on America in terms of wellness and health and recalibrating our relationship with big food and big pharma is obviously a massive. And he doesn't get enough credit for this, but the idea that a Kennedy Democrat is in his cabinet is actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Biggest surprise, Dan.
I think how much he is active on the foreign policy, like meaningfully active. I would have never thought that we would do something like we did in Venezuela. I can see the pinprick strikes to take out a terrorist or whatever, but color me skeptical that in November of 24, I thought we're going to take out Maduro and try to take Greenland and basically blow up NATO.
Sean?
The thing that fascinates me is whether you are a huge MAGA Trump supporter or the biggest hater, you have to be willing to accept the fact that when you look at what he campaigned on, he followed up. He kept his word. I mean, tariffs, the southern border, ICE, all of these things he talked about and he's doing. He's not doing the typical Washington weaselly, mealy mouth. Here's why I couldn't get it done. He's doing it. what to me is fascinating is with all of that, any politician that could say, if I could get all of these things promised, what would happen? Most people would say, God, your approval rating would be sky high and all this. And what I think that to me is amazing is the disconnect between the accomplishments, what he's gotten done, big, beautiful bill, all this, and where he stands, not with Democrats, but with independents.
Yeah. For me, biggest surprise was definitely the Iran strike. I mean, I remember I had written just a week before a story sort of fleshing out all of the MAGA voices who were like, do not do this. Whether it was like Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk at the time, Jack Posobiec, Steve Bannon. And President Trump is like, I define what is America first, and I define that this is in our interest. And he did it. And sure enough, the base, lined up right behind him. But I really didn't think he would do something like that. So that was my surprise. Personnel, winner and loser. Just do both at the same time, I think. Let's go, Dan.
I'm going to say Susie Wiles, just because the way that the ship has run very, very tightly and well. In the big picture, in a vacuum, it's run well. Considering, Sean can speak to this, and Rachel, you can better than I can, but just the Shark Tank that is Trump world, she ran a great campaign along with others, but I am surprised. I'm surprised that they have governed this well.
Loser?
Oh, you want me to say loser too?
Actually, that's fine. Let's go to Sean first on winner. Go ahead.
Sure.
I agree with Dan, but I'll go back to my same thing. I think and there's a lot. I mean, like each of them niche wise, what Lee Zeldin's done at EPA or Sean Duffy's done at transportation, or what Pete's done. But like, I do think that, again, going back to like actually making a lasting impact, what Bobby has done at HHS is going to far last this administration. Like the dyes, the PFAS, the generally recognized as safe grass, like all of these things that Kennedy and the Mahab movement have done are going to well exceed the timeline of this administration going forward. So for that reason, I'll give him the win.
I'm going to say Marco Rubio, just because a lot of people thought he was a Republican from an era that was, sort of fading for a long time. And he is perhaps the most relevant cabinet secretary right now, arguably. I mean, very close with the president, great relationship with the inner circle. And nobody saw him as like, somebody who could fit in with MAGA world, and look at him. He's my winner. Loser, Dan.
Oh, I would probably say Kristi Noem. I think the days or actually, no, you know what? I'm going to change that because it's too obvious. I'm going to say Pete Hegseth. I'm going to say, I think he has not, I think he has not advanced well, and I think history is going to treat him unkindly.
Oh, I'll disagree with that one, but I would have gone with your initial. So I just think that the thing about Noem that's disappointing is that it's the greatest signature accomplishment. Right. So we all can acknowledge, no matter where, I mean, Dan said it, even Hakeem Jeffries and Bernie, like everyone's acknowledging the president's success on closing the southern border and stopping illegal immigration. You would think that if you were the secretary that presided over that, you would be winning a ton of praise. And yet the sloppiness and horrible imagery that's coming out of that doesn't reflect well on her.
My loser, I'm going to say Elon Musk, because he only, was able to find about $200 billion instead of $2 trillion worth to cut of the federal government. Now, look, that goal was always very difficult. It was going to be an impossible mountain to climb. But I mean, I just think about the first few months of the administration when all the headlines centered around him, something controversial he said or did, and it often distracted from the things the administration want to talk about. One thing I will say, though, I mean, this notion of being able to fire federal workers, there's now precedent for that. And that is something that we've never seen before. And so that is an accomplishment for the administration in and of itself. I think it's less about Elon, though, and more about this admin being willing to get rid of federal workers without cause, which is what they did. So, okay, what's coming up next year? What are you watching very quickly? And then we'll move to questions.
I'm watching. I mean, Sean, you said you're surprised the poll numbers don't match the accomplishments. The one area he has just kind of not been great on is the economy. And I am watching to see if it starts to pick up steam by this spring. Because if it does not pick up steam with all these imageries and all these other problems, I mean, we always thought the map prohibited more than picking up 20 House seats and maybe 4 Senate seats. That could change.
Yeah, I take a different view on that. I mean, to me, as you know, like I feel like the economy is in the oven. They took all the ingredients last year, they put it in a pan, and they said, we hope this is the right for the, we'll pull it out in a few months. I believe that Q2, Q3, when it's going to matter, and it's done, like it's in the oven. So either you put the right ingredients in the pan or you didn't. I believe with all of the aspects of the big, beautiful bill, et cetera, that we'll be firing on all cylinders. I think to me, the biggest one is foreign policy. To Rachel's point about Iran, like this was not really part of the election construct. So what does all of this, whether it's Venezuela, Colombia, Greenland,
Canada,
like where does this all play out? Because that to me is the X factor. As I said, if you look at what he accomplished, what he said he would do, normally people would kill to run on that. But you now have this X factor that wasn't part of the equation.
What am I watching next year? If we have a new U.S. territory called Greenland, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the midterms are going to be the big thing next year. Traditionally, the party in power loses 24 seats in the midterms. So already they've got the structural headwinds coming against them. Can they sort of dig out of that with redistricting, which again, Supreme Court, Voting Rights Act, that's a big one to be watching for next year, this year. Okay, let's take some questions. Here we go. Rather than use the argument that Trump's truths are the art of the deal, please rationally discuss the disturbing nature of the late night truths. Why is the U.S. pivoting to a policy which is Putin's dream, a rupture of NATO and U.S./EU relations? Why is Trump so pro-Putin? Sean, that's for you.
I don't, the Putin thing, his truths aren't, to me, like that's just him expressing himself and, kind of doing what he does at night. The Putin thing does sort of intrigue me. Why is he inviting to the board of peace? Like, that's not, like, we should be isolating him more than anything else right now. I think Trump firmly believes, though, that when you go back and look at him, that like getting whoever's the most obstinate person in a deal, bringing them then and embracing them and trying to hug them sometimes gets you the best deal. I get maybe that works in business. I think that there's too much at stake with Putin. I would isolate him.
Yeah, on this question, I just don't think you can separate the truths from the art of the deal. I mean, this is how he thinks about, deal making, that he's got to take a tough posture to try to get anything. We've talked about it on the show before, but Susie Wiles, again, that quote from the Vanity Fair piece says you got to push the limit because you're never going to get, that much. It's going to inevitably be scaled back in some way. So you have to go further than what you want to accomplish. So I just think that that's the mentality of the president. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think he relentlessly works the referees and he relentlessly tries to soften up opponents, right? It is the repeated body blows, belittling, taunting. And look, you can say it's juvenile, it's unprofessional, whatever, but it has worked for him politically. And I think, to your point, Rachel, this is his art of the political deal. We'll see if he's successful. Because, of course, as Sue says, the ultimate irony is if all of this effort against the EU is to get Greenland to prevent Russia and China from getting it, the best thing for Russia is for NATO to collapse, for those European countries to have limited defenses, and for Russian troops to march across the plains of Eastern Europe. I mean, so you can't square his rationale on that front, but we've for 12 years said you can't square half of what he does with Putin.
Thank you, Independent Sue in Colorado. Let's do another. It feels like American democracy has experienced friction for decades. Gerrymandering creates hyperpartisan maps increasing incentives to bend the rules for one side instead of spreading unity. Politicians elect their voters. Is there any hope for a bipartisan fix for this? Who wants to take that one?
Look, I mean, I will say this. I think elections reflect the mood of the electorate. And one of the things about Trump that is often not talked about is the reason he is so powerful is because voters line up behind him, and his track record at the ballot box, both for him and for people he has endorsed or not endorsed, is incredibly strong. John Harris of Politico has a great story out, or a column out today, which is the legacy of Trump is going to continue even after he's gone, unless like the world really changes. No one's going to probably undo all the tariffs, just like Biden didn't. No one's going to go around the world and try to rebuild all of these alliances, because some of them really, truly, to Sean's point, were not in America's interest anymore. And so you will see bipartisanship when the electorate says it's time for compromise. Right now, they want big and bold, and Trump is big and bold.
Yeah. It's funny. I always think back to my first election in 1994. Like, we ran all of our stuff, our ads and our messaging about working together and across both sides, and, you know, able to establish, and now you'd get killed for that. There is an ebb and flow, but I think rightly so. And part of the reason that Doge came to be is that the American people, I think, are tired of not being listened to, being dismissed, and even just belittled for having concern or thought. Like, I know, I feel like today's show, I keep going back to like the Maha movement, but it's the best example outside of Doge, which is we were just gaslit and told certain things were safe, that this was the right thing to do. We shouldn't question it. And slowly but surely, piece by piece, we peel back the onion and go, yeah, that wasn't the right thing to do. Or it's funny that Bobby yesterday was getting some backlash for talking about cell towers and 5G concerns with from your health. Go read what Apple tells you on the box. Like, there's actually, I got a new iPhone this weekend. Like, they'll say it can, like, there's health warnings on the damn thing, and yet our government doesn't ever do anything to really amplify that, because, well, you know, same thing with big food and big pharma, they're in bed with them. I think where we are right now is a lot of people where you are, and this is why there's this sort of concentric circle around a lot of the Bernie bros and a lot of the Trump supporters, why Mondami brought this up. There's a group of people that are just really at a boiling point of, I'm tired of government gaslighting me, not paying attention to me, telling me that everything's okay. And so we'll see where that goes. But I don't think that there's a fix. Gerrymandering has been as old as Elbridge Gerry in Massachusetts back in the day. It's not going anywhere. But I think politicians will respond to voters. The only thing, like, my big fix on this, I want presidents voted or elected by like every electoral vote, if you will, district. So then they might pay attention to areas where they could pick up a vote here or there, as opposed to just writing off certain states.
Let's do one more. Okay. Oop, there it goes. Oh, this is funny. Republican lady asks Dan and Sean, do we really need to listen to Carville and Rove? They have not done much in real politics for decades.
I mean, look, I wouldn't, give them total attention and say like they're 100% right. You're right. They haven't, neither has run races in a while, but I also wouldn't discount them. And when you have Karl Rove and James Carville saying the same thing, that I would start to pay attention. They still consume politics at a, amazing level. And I would not, this is like, don't believe your lying eyes. There's so much data out there saying the same thing that both parties have. You're putting your head in the sand if you're saying it's all fake.
Yeah, I think sometimes this goes back to what I was saying. For a long time, we discounted so many voices in the political process. Just because Carl or Carville says it doesn't make it wrong. And right. And I'll tell you this right now, like, if you don't want to listen to me, don't listen to me. But I'll tell you, in this instance, whether you like Carl or James or anybody, what he's saying is right. Like, you should pay attention because what's going to happen is if you don't listen to him, and I'm not saying, again, on this singular issue, should we worry about the Hispanic vote, particularly in Texas? Yes. So I don't, like I've told you before, don't take, medical advice, economic advice, or legal advice from me. But I would tell you that anybody who doesn't think that paying attention to coalitions that were key to winning in 2024 and where they're standing now is of concern is missing the mark.
Yeah. Thank you, Republican lady. Guys, that's all the time we have. That's all the time we have for today. Sean, you said you're having Hudson on today. Richard Hudson.
And the cool thing is, we did this thing last cycle called Road to 270. We went through like every state, every week, every Wednesday, and talked about where the polling was. And so we're going to do that with Richard Hudson. Every key congressional district. If you're a political junkie, like we're literally going, I've got it all mapped out. Open seats, competitive, where the Democrats, what seats they think they can pick up, what our guy looks like. And then where we're going to go on offense as well. So this is, if you're a political junkie, this is going to be your show tonight.
Tell him hello for me. I've covered him since he was a wee baby lawmaker on Capitol Hill.
I go back with him when he was the legislative director for Robin Hayes, North Carolina 8. So,
yeah, I remember one of the things I always liked about him was he was just like very down to earth. And I remember he'd always show me pictures of things he had hunted and killed on his phone and be like, look at the deer. I just, and I'm like, I don't want to see that. Thank you. But no. Anyway.
But were you wearing fur, Rachel? Because then
you might have been like,
I was not in back then.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. He probably thought you would be like, wow, look.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
I could get you one of these.
Oh, goodness. And once again, I'll say these are not real. Okay. Just fake. Okay. Dan, anything you want to flag before we say adieu to everyone?
Sounds like people should watch Sean's show tonight.
There you go. All right, guys.
And they should sign up for RachelBade.com if you have not already. She had a newsletter.
I'm doing a bunch of source meetings, source calls today. So nothing coming from the inner circle today. But yes,
they know that. Do you call them like, hi, can I have a source call with you?
RachelBade.com, my newsletter. It's free. Would love to have you guys join there too. But yes, so we'll be back tomorrow, 8:30, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about Davos. So we'll see you then.
Quick question. Wait, before we go out. Will the Supreme Court do a ruling today? What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah. Good call.
I'm going to say something comes today.
I agree. So by the way, the historically 10 a.m., so 27 minutes. Okay, here's the question, Dan. There's voting rights and tariffs.
Yeah. Could you imagine if tariffs hit and he's going to Davos?
Wow.
But here's the deal. Like, there's days in which we talk, like, the court doesn't try to be political, but do you think that they had any I mean, like, you don't schedule your releases around Davos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do they care that the president's out of the country?
He's still here. He's still here right now.
That's true. He is. He doesn't leave till tonight. He doesn't leave till tonight.
Oh,
so.
Man.
I don't know. Every time
the Voting Rights Act.
I know this
the Voting
ruling
Rights Act may go today.
They keep saying the ruling will come out eventually, but like it
but they
like
also said expedited. So that was the key on. I think it might have even been both, but they said it definitely on tariffs, right? That it was an expedited.
Yeah, and that was like 4 months ago. They said that, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, I will. If I don't know what the betting markets say today, I'm going. There will be a tariffs, and it's going to be a split decision.
Okay. All right. You heard it here first.
What? Okay. Hey, so give me your, it's a Colonel Mustard in the library with the cans. What do you got?
Tariffs, and they strike it down, but no refunds. They're going to say it. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Do that.
The refund thing would be a disaster.
You have to give it back. If it goes down, that's where I'll go with this. If it goes down, you have to give the money back.
Okay.
I'm going to say, just because nobody else is, I'm going to say they uphold it.
Okay.
I don't really know.
But are we in agreement? No Voting Rights Act today? Because Dan initially, so we all agree tariffs or tariffs and voting rights?
No, I'm saying they will strike down voting rights. They will strike down voting rights.
Yeah, correct.
Tariffs. That's
okay.
Agreed.
So you guys believe that if there's a ruling today, it's more likely that it's voting rights than tariffs?
Correct. Because that's the more politically like they've got if it's going to happen this cycle, they've got to rule like yesterday, and I think they're sensitive to that.
I think they'll look overtly political and like they're helping Republicans if
See,
they vote
that's
today.
Dan. I actually
Okay,
think,
and your point is, where's the news in that
I think that
statement?
they'll rule. I think they'll strike it down, but they'll do it in June or like.
I
whatever.
actually see. I'm with Rachel on this, Dan, because I think that they don't want to be accused. They want to be on principle. We did it because we think that the country's advanced, et cetera, but we don't want to look like we helped Republicans. I'm with Rachel on that one.
Yeah, and it's going to be too late for many people, many states to do anything about it. So they'll have to tackle it the next cycle.
Yep.
Okay. All right, guys, we got to go.
Oh,
we'll see you tomorrow morning.